The number one reason why your lead playing does not sound clean is because you're not muting the strings that you're not playing. And if that makes perfect sense and that's all you needed to hear, then you can click off the video right now. But for those of you that are looking for a deeper understanding, let me explain. I came upon this discovery that instantly cleaned up my lead play because just like many of you, I want to shred. I want to play super fast licks and have it sound amazing. And for years, I could play at a pretty average pace, around 110 or 120 BPM, and it sounded pretty clean. And if I ever tried to push above that, things would start to get sloppy, and so I would resort to this. This is a neck wrap, and what it does is mutes your strings for you so you can play at lightning fast speeds and still have it sound clean. And if you really think that I made this whole video just to tell you about this, then you might be an idiot. And if you didn't just click off the video right there, then you might actually be smart, because you know that those things are BS. And just for some proof, here's what my guitar sounds like with this neck wrap on that mutes all of my strings. Amazing. But in all seriousness, the technique that I discovered and I'm about to show you right now is called ghost muting. Now this is something that I'd never heard of before, and I didn't think that I invented it. I've seen many other players do this, and so I went online to look up to see if anyone has ever talked about this before, and I only found one video on all of YouTube. And so not a lot of people know about this, and this one technique will fix so many of your problems. A very common misconception of when you're playing lead lines is that if your notes sound messy, it's because the strings are ringing out from the headstock side of the neck. And that's why it's very common that you see neck wraps way up here to try and give you as much of the neck as possible to play with while also muting the notes. However, you'll see professional guitarists play live and they are never using a neck wrap. So how do they do it? Well, I'm going to give you an example of what a scale sounds like with and without ghost muting. So first, with. And now I'm going to show you what it sounds like without. And I want you to try and see if you can spot the difference as to why it sounds different and what I'm actually doing to change the sound. And as an added bonus, I'm going to play it even slower because in theory, if I do that, it should be cleaner. All right, so here we go. So what did I do differently? If you notice, both of my hands looked the exact same, but when I played that time, you heard a bunch of harmonics and open strings. So what changed? I'm gonna give you one more chance to spot the difference. I'm gonna go from ghost muting to not ghost muting without stopping. Really pay attention. Now, if you can't spot the difference, that is the ghost in ghost muting. It is quite literally undetectable unless you absolutely know what's going on. So now let's talk about how it's done. Typically, when you're playing fast leads, you will anchor your palm onto the saddle of your guitar and then start playing your scale. And if you're someone who plays with their knuckles curled up like this, you'll typically lift them away from the strings so you don't accidentally mute them or get this horrible sound. Which totally makes sense. But with that being said, if we are trying to ghost mute, the side of our thumb has to touch the strings. But if we're playing with our fingers curled, we'll typically try and pull them out of the way and push the pick down so only the pick is making contact with the strings. In which case we'll typically get something that sounds like this. And of course, that's not what we want. And what will often happen is you'll try to mute the strings with your fretting hand, and of course that doesn't work, especially if you're playing around the 12th fret, because now you're going to accidentally get natural harmonics. And if I'm trying to mute strings with my fretting hand, let's say going from the D string to the G string, I end up getting this horrible harmonic sound during my lead. And so because of that, trying to mute strings with our fretting hand is just not reliable. We can't just cut off the entire 12th fret because no matter what, we're gonna get those harmonics. And of course, harmonics happen on the 5th fret, 7th fret, and even the 15th fret as well too. So this technique just does not work if we're trying to play clean. And this is where ghost muting comes in. If I use the side of my thumb right behind my pick, not quite like a pinch harmonic, but rather the side of my thumb right here. If I place that on the string previous to the one that I want to play next, it will mute that string for me without getting a harmonic. Now I'm gonna show you a ghost mute extremely slow so you can see it. As I'm performing my upstroke, I'm very lightly grazing the D string with the side of my thumb. I'm not looking to get a pinch harmonic. So now I'm going to show you side by side what it looks like. One ghost mute followed by not ghost muting. It's so unbelievably subtle, but that slight rub with the side of your thumb will absolutely clean up your sound. So I want to show you that first scale example I did again, but from this angle so you can absolutely see the ghost mute in action. Notice that every single time I go from one string to the next, I'm rubbing the side of my thumb on the previous string to make sure that I'm muting it with my picking hand. And finally, here's what it looks like from this angle without ghost muting. So you can clearly hear and see the difference now. And I want to point out that I chose to play around the 12th fret because the harmonics are so present. If you're doing it properly, they will disappear, just like a ghost. Another massive thing that it does for your technique is it forces you to travel across the strings like this to continue to get the ghost mute, rather than putting your palm on the saddle and just cranking your wrist and getting that really bad form that changes your picking technique. So if you're someone who picks like this, this is going to be an absolute game changer for you. If you notice when I was playing on the high B and E string, my wrist was turned down like this so I could reach the strings. We already know that this is bad form, but if I'm trying to ghost mute, I'm forced to bring my entire arm with me as I travel across the strings. And I feel like this has to be said because thousands upon thousands of players get this wrong, and so did I for a super long time. But when you are playing leads, it is completely okay to rest your entire palm and hand on the strings that you are not playing. The reason why many of us, including myself for a very long time, and that's why this is here, is because I would take my palm, plant it right here on the saddle, and try to float in the air as I played my leads. And then when I would watch videos of other players saying that you shouldn't crank your wrist down like this to reach the high strings, the answer was to float in the air. And now I felt like I had no stability. I was trying to pick like this, and I didn't realize I can just rest my palm on the strings that I'm not playing, and it's completely okay. And now that you have the technique down, you're probably going to want to try and build up to that superhuman speed. And if that's the case, this video right here is the perfect thing to help you do that.